Uh-oh. What's your take on the fact that the medical records have come out and it seems to prove conclusively that Khelif is in fact a biological man?
Hey Martin, thanks for welcoming me back. First of all, standard respect, dignity applies. This person is a woman.
No, they're not.
Appreciate that doesn't necessarily align with your belief system, but in common society, we should be referring to her as a woman who maybe has...
It's nothing to do with my belief system, Joanne. It's the biological evidence. It's not a belief system. It's the difference between truth and fantasy. The truth
yes, but Martin,
is out.
As you know...
Further evidence of what I've been telling you since last year, that the majority of the people you see speaking up on Imane Khelif's behalf are members of a community that the fighter themselves is not even a part of, because Imane Khelif is not a trans person. This is not someone who transitioned from male to female. At the very most, this is someone with a developmental sexual disorder. But the situation itself has been co-opted by trans activists who wish to use Imane Khelif to further their own agenda. That agenda is to commandeer, control, and subsequently exclude biological women from their own spaces, designated for them. That's the end game. Left unchecked, there won't be medals for biological women to win because they won't be the ones winning them.
But anyway, going back to the point at hand, the test results we're talking about here are the ones that were produced by the discredited test that was already been discussed and discredited. These were leaked. I don't know whether these test results are accurate. They were discredited.
The results were not discredited. They were not challenged by the IOC. They were dismissed. They were ignored, not invalidated. They didn't prove that Aiba's claim that Imane Khelif and Lin Yuting both have XY chromosomes. They didn't prove that to be false. As if we needed a PCR test to know that Imane Khelif has XY chromosomes. I'm no endocrinologist, but I took one look at the fighter and came to that conclusion. And the PCR tests that were conducted were not conducted by some hokey-pokey organization.
The fact that they turned around and said that those tests that they had been informed about a year prior were not legitimate when they were performed and accredited by the US College of Pathology and certified by the International Organization of Standardization, right? That's who did these tests. So it wasn't some quack organization. So all of that you saw at the Olympic Games in Paris last year was an utter lie. You only had to see the pictures of Khelif up on the shoulders of their coaches afterwards to know that this was not somebody that they were treating like a female, because they wouldn't have done that. So everybody knew. And yet, you know, we were being lambasted, all of the people that were saying, look, this is not fair. And most importantly, it's incredibly dangerous.
Trans rights activists don't seem to care because in the eyes of the trans rights activists, they are the same as biological women, even when there is evidence to the contrary. In order to rebuild, you must first destroy. So the goal here is to destroy normalcy to thereby rebuild the definition of what it means to be a woman in their own image. This is where the athletes themselves have to be the ones that speak up and speak out. This is where they have to draw a line in the sand and pick a side.
This person, this woman, was born a woman, raised as a woman, and has lived as a woman all of her life.
Now, the only thing we know is that our suspicions from last year were proven true this one, and this fighter has an XY karyotype, but wishes to compete among XX athletes. So it doesn't actually matter what they thought, or what you think about it. That is not important. What is important is the state of play for the vast majority of athletes who are affected by this.
And what we're now doing is we're now judging her based on how she looks, how she sounds, and how we perceive her. I think it sets a worrying precedent that we're going to be seeing more and more women who don't conform to the gender stereotype of normal, whatever that may be, being sex tested by having their mouth swabbed. I think it's regressive. We're going back in time to an era when this was abhorrent, and we've moved past this. And it just shows that the world's gone crazy.
Well, if something as simple as gender is subjective in your purview, some would say that crazy is subjective. Some would say that you're crazy.
That you're out of your damn mind.
Because I reiterate, I'm no endocrinologist. But I took one look at Imane Khelif and knew they've got XY chromosomes. And how did I come to that conclusion without years in the field, years of study?
Well, it's because it's very obvious.
While you wish to gaslight the rest of us for your own agenda by saying that it isn't.
So, Joanne, in that case, do you think it's progressive and it's forward-looking to see somebody like Imane Khelif pulverise a woman to the point where they're on their knees crying, clearly physically mauled, physically outmuscled in every aspect? Is that the progressive side here?
Well, we know there's been some media conspiracy here.
Oh, it's a media conspiracy. Is that what it is? That's rich. Coming from someone who ignores actual lab results from accredited labs and experts in the field.
So this is someone who ignores evidence of what everybody's talking about, but when asked about what the fighter said when facing Imane Khelif, defers to conspiracy theories.
And it's not just Angela Carini or Luca Hamori. There have been amateur coaches, former sparring partners of Imane Khelif. We covered all of this last year, collected that data.
Put simply, this Joe Lockwood person is disingenuous, deluded, and dangerous.
The most I can say, and at this point, I believe that it's up to the athletes. It's up to the fighters to take a stand, take a stance, because it's your own rights you're fighting for, your own right to compete amongst each other.
To not have invaders co-opt your spaces to then, in effect, push you out. That's what they want to do.
Behind the guise of inclusivity and being progressive, what they really want is to push you out.
There is something deeper and darker there. A resentment that I've no need to get into, this being a boxing channel, and we will focus on the boxing, as stated.
Boxing is a dangerous enough sport without this skewed sense of idealism fueling this farce.
These logical fallacies and disingenuous arguments.
It's dangerous enough as it is that this doesn't need to be happening. Today, it's Imane Khelif. Tomorrow, it's somebody else. And that somebody else might seriously hurt one of these women fighters.
The danger is real enough without making it worse.
Elsewhere in the world of boxing, another official statement on behalf of Jaime Munguia and his doping fiasco. Following Jaime's initial statement, we want to provide additional clarity in response to speculation and misinformation circulating about his recent VADA test. First, it is important to reiterate, Jaime Munguia has never tested positive in over 100 anti-doping tests across his professional career until now. His record speaks for itself. He's always complied with VADA testing protocols and has built a reputation as a clean and respectful fighter who honors the integrity of the sport. We ask the boxing community to remember that context before rushing to judgment. The test in question was one of multiple tests conducted during the training camp. All others came back clean. The positive A-sample result was unexpected and deeply concerning to us. Exogenous testosterone, like many banned substances, can enter the body in several ways, not solely through intentional use at this moment. We do not know what caused the result. We are rigorously reviewing every product Jaime used, including supplements, pharmaceuticals, treatments, and anything else that could be relevant. This is a meticulous process, and we are committed to uncovering how this substance may have entered a system. We also want to clarify that Eddie Reynoso serves only as Jaime's trainer. He is not involved in Jaime's nutrition, supplementation, or medical oversight. Likewise, no one on Canelo Alvarez's team has any role in overseeing Jaime's regimen or is in any way responsible for this situation. Any implication that Reynoso or anyone associated with Canelo's team bears responsibility is entirely unfounded and unfair.
And yet Jaime doesn't pop until he starts training with Eddie.
The only person responsible for overseeing Jaime's supplements and vitamins is Marco Antonio Perez Espinoza, who's worked with Jaime since nearly the beginning of his professional boxing career. This is the first time that Marco has ever been connected to a situation of this nature and is fully cooperating in the current review process. We've not been informed of the exact levels detected in the initial test, which is a critical piece of information, nor have we received the result of the B sample, which is currently pending. While we wait, we urge the public and the media to avoid drawing premature conclusions based on incomplete information. One thing we know for certain, Jaime is not a cheater. He did not knowingly or intentionally take anything that would violate anti-doping regulations.
Where have I heard that before?
To suggest otherwise is not only inaccurate, but deeply unfair to a fighter who's always cooperated with professionalism, integrity, and respect for the sport. He has been consistent advocate for clean boxing and has personally insisted on VADA testing throughout his career because he understands that in a contact sport, the use of performance-enhancing drugs can have serious and even dangerous consequences. There have been several instances across sports where athletes have been cleared after demonstrating that contamination, whether due to human error or tainted products, was the cause, and that there was no intent to cheat. We are hopeful that through a review, we will bring similar clarity to this situation. We recognize that the responsibility for ensuring full VADA compliance ultimately lies with Jaime and our team. We take that responsibility seriously, and we are actively reviewing every detail with the utmost diligence, working alongside experts and relevant authorities to understand what occurred and find the source of the substance detected. We will share updates when we have more information. In the meantime, we ask for patience, fairness, and understanding. Jaime Munguia remains committed to clean competition and will cooperate fully with this process until it is resolved, but it's not like he has much of a choice. He's the one who has all the explaining to do.
They want to take an innocent until proven guilty kind of stance when it's already proven there was something in Jaime's system that was not supposed to be there. And his explanation for all of this is the same as every fighter's explanation. I don't know what happened. I don't know how it got there. I didn't knowingly cheat.
So what are we to believe? That every fighter with a lofty explanation was innocent the whole time? That this just keeps happening on its own due to ineptitude?
Oversight. And not because the fighters are seeking a competitive edge.
The motive was definitely there for Jaime to cheat because you got knocked out by this guy in your last fight. So going into the second, you needed a little something extra.
The motive was there. The pattern is there. This is what, the third or fourth fighter in Eddie Reynoso's gym that ended up testing positive? And you don't test positive for nothing until you start working with him.
You say that Jaime has been a party to over 100 anti-doping tests, all of which came back clean. That only makes Eddie look even more suspicious that you don't pop until you start training with him.
So is this article really about fairness and patience, or is it about getting the monkey off of Eddie Reynoso's back? Because most people are looking at him.
Know what I think? I think everybody's doping, and I think everybody is playing dumb jointly. I think everybody's a party to it.
I never saw any fighter in this situation cop to the rap and just come clean and say it, that they were doping because they wanted an edge. That never happens. It always goes the same way.
In my purview, Jaime is not the only fighter to test positive for a banned substance. He's not the first, he won't be the last, and we've done this before.
Then why do they want so bad for us to view him as being innocent? And why do they want our consideration?
Maybe it's because the boxing world as a whole is not ready to come clean, is not ready to come out with it. They don't want this entire fiasco to affect Jaime Munguia's reputation and his career adversely.
To be frank, it's hardly the end of the world that Jaime is the latest fighter to pop hot. There are already a good number of individuals making excuses for him on the premise of his nationality and their own nationalism. So he's gonna be just fine.
He'll get a year ban reduced to a 6-month ban so long as he cooperates, which they're saying he is. A slap on the wrist and he'll be back before you know it.
And it will be like nothing happened, because in many ways, nothing did. Nothing out of the ordinary in the world of boxing.
Men's heavyweight news. Lawrence Okolie is reportedly set for a heated clash with Dillian Whyte following June 7th warm-up.
I think that's gonna be Dillian's third consecutive warm-up fight.
Although no official contract has been signed, it appears increasingly likely that fight fans will see the two longtime rivals square off. Whyte is set to return to action this weekend on the undercard of Wortley vs. Hooney in a warm-up contest ready for his clash with Okolie later this year. There's been a bad blood brewing between these two for years, an unspoken animosity. The body snatcher last stepped into the ring in December, securing a 7th-round stoppage of Ghana's Ebenezer Tete, retired in his corner. The win extended 37-year-old Whyte's unbeaten streak to 3, with his last defeat coming in April of 2022 when he was stopped by Tyson Fury in a bid for the WBC heavyweight title. Okolie is riding the momentum of two back-to-back first-round stoppage wins over Lukas Rozensky and Hussein Muhammad, which earned the 32-year-old the WBC Bridgerweight World title and the WBC Heavyweight Silver title, respectively. While they've yet to trade punches in the ring, Lawrence Okolie and Dillian Whyte's rivalry has played out publicly across social media, where sharp insults and personal digs have kept tensions boiling.
Jeez, Dillian is 37 years old now? Didn't realize.
Rumors have circulated about past sparring sessions between the two, with conflicting stories about who came out on top. While neither fighter has confirmed the details, the speculation has only added fuel to their ongoing war of words. In a recent interview with Sky Sports, Okolie claimed that Whyte has no real interest in fighting him and accused the heavyweight of merely playing up to the cameras. He's a coward. Simple as that. In front of the camera, Dillian is the type of person who goes on about, he's about this. I'm getting point blank. He does not want the Okolie fight.
Dillian Whyte, once labeled the can man of the United Kingdom for his willingness to seemingly take on all comers, has that stance softened over the years to where now he doesn't fancy a Lawrence Okolie fight. I hadn't realized that Dillian is getting up there in age. He's 37, whereas Lawrence is comparatively younger and fresher at 32 and looking the part, whereas Dillian has just been slugging along in warm-up fight after warm-up fight. The one this weekend will be his third consecutive warm-up fight. He is so obviously trying to build himself up for something bigger. I think a Lawrence Okolie fight applies.
A Lawrence Okolie fight will be bigger than any fight that Dillian Whyte has had in the last 2 going on 3 years. Though does he prefer it? There are some other fights on the table. There was talk about a potential Anthony Joshua rematch, which comparatively would be bigger and likely pay better than a Lawrence Okolie fight.
I think if Dillian had to choose, he would choose the AJ fight over the Okolie fight, but I, as a customer, don't actually want to see an AJ fight. There's no need for a rematch. I would rather see him in there with Lawrence Okolie, even if it doesn't favor him.
You think Lawrence would knock him out?
I do, but Anthony Joshua already did. So what need is there for a second fight? There are 2 names in the hat for Anthony Joshua's ring return. One is Dillian Whyte, and the other is Jared Anderson. That I would rather see Joshua versus Anderson than Joshua versus Whyte again. We already saw what happened.
Whyte versus Okolie is a fresher fight comparatively than Whyte versus Joshua too.
Changing of the guard, so to speak, Lawrence Okolie's ascent to the heavyweight division, he needs a big win, he needs a big name, and Dillian's name is still worth something. That if you made a fight between them, I think the Brits would come out to watch it.
Think it's a good fight, another good domestic dust-up between domestic rivals. Sign me up. And if they make it, I think Lawrence Okolie with Dillian is Whyte.
Nothing against him, but at 37 years old, time is not on Dillian's side, and it doesn't help that he's a sucker for an uppercut, and everybody knows it.